Hi, everybody. This is day 1547. And since Richard was code red murdered on Fort Bliss, premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss internally, a lot of things were happening internally at the time. Let me make sure that I'm on. See if everything is working. There it is. Okay, so absolutely, a lot of things were happening internally on Fort Bliss, and it didn't just happen overnight. It's been happening for a long time, and it starts with the corruption in Washington D.C., and I think that everyone absolutely sees that the American people have been hoodwinked, that we have been sold lie after lie after lie, and that behind the scenes they were up to no good. And why am I pointing to that? Because the Senate Arms Committee and others absolutely are the ones that give the stars to our generals. They're the ones that pick our leaders. And they have picked really rotten ones, absolutely treasonous ones. Mealy is one of them. McConville is one of them. Sean Bernabe, Donna Martin. There's a lot of them. There's 44 four-star generals that have betrayed the United States. They are absolutely have committed major crimes. And I'm not saying that um, all the generals that there's not one that is halfway decent. Um, I know different. I know different, but the silence, the um, Garrett, so dirty, y'all. Michael Xavier Garrett, four-star general. He's absolutely dirty. And how did he, where's the oversight? Where, who gave him the stars? Who gave Sean Bernabe a third star, right? Who gave Donna Martin? I mean, look at the debacle that that she created with and allowed to create and didn't investigate with Vanessa Guillen and so many other soldiers and so many others, and of course our son Richard Halliday, and then was promoted by the Senate Arms Committee. Um, I mean, she led a fake dog and pony task force find Richard Halliday. She absolutely needs to be stripped. And those that appointed her, those that gave her orders, and then made her the IG of the Army to investigate herself as what she did under Yvonne, under the Vanessa Guillen and Richard Halliday cases. There's so many names you have to keep um, track of, and we can never forget Vanessa Guillen and all the soldiers and our son Richard Halliday, who has been so wronged in all of this. And um, she was part of it, and now she's supposed to investigate herself as the Army IG. And if you're military, that should just disgust you. You'd want to hurry up and go to the bathroom and throw up in disgust because of what is happening in our military and who has allowed that to happen. Of course, Congress, right? Of course, the Senate. They've allowed this to happen. They have control over who becomes our leaders and what their agendas are, and if they're lacking in esprit de corps, um, they went ahead and promoted them, right? If they were supporting criminal activity and criminal trafficking, they didn't care. They supported them. and they absolutely have supported the criminal trafficking on our military installations, and specifically in our son's case, Fort Bliss. Absolutely, they, General Eisenhower, Sean Bernabe, um, all the ones, Patrick Matlock, um, Michael Xavier, Garrett, Clem Coward, David Stewart. They have absolutely, along with the senior NCOs like Command Sergeant Major, uh, they promoted um, Jakovitz to Command Sergeant Major, and he had no moral fiber, no moral compass. He brought in those girls, those young girls, and I know I would really love to see their ID. They're probably fake IDs. Oh yeah, I'm 18. No, and of course, they hired DES Thomas Kane, the Director of Emergency Services, that gave them the passes by the demand of the Command Sergeant Major and Clem Coward. And Jakovitz told us they brought in those girls during the COVID lockdown. And then we received the corroborating testimony, witness testimony, that they were absolutely bringing the girls in unlawfully onto Fort Bliss, um, in their party wears, their party get-ups. Um, yeah, and then to hear that a 14-year-old girl was being pimped out while living in the barracks to soldiers. And you know how that goes. It's not just one a night or whatever. People get very greedy. And this is what this is. This is all greed. This is larceny in the heart, selling out our country, selling out their oath, selling out each other. And it's no different with Leilani Hart and CID agent Tavita Nusa and platoon leader Dallas Hart, who's the son of crazy woman, crazy in the head. Those aren't my words, okay? Those are, the reports that we have, that even from a judge, that Leilani Hart suffers from uh, mental difficulties, and multiple individuals have told me she's crazy in the head. And this comes from her family members. This is reported um, by her family members and by her employers, that she's crazy. um, so she is unhinged, and she was given access to our military installation as a confirmed, convicted. That started before Richard was even born, okay, and continued to develop her criminality, her crazy criminality, continued to infiltrate our military, have access because of her husband with Pablo, which is the disability benefits. And she, of course, conflicts of interest with Clem Coward. She has a history of manipulating Clem Coward, also uh, Director of Emergency Services Thomas Kane, and of course Tavita Nusa on a very personal level, and uh, brag about controlling the CID on Fort Bliss, and just acting with impunity, and even showing that she felt that she could act with impunity with Park University and do her lying, manipulative, crazy um, agenda that she, she was allowed to do. Uh, it seems she was working for somebody. Okay, it seems like she was working for. This was absolutely an agenda, and um, yeah. So because Bob Moore of El Paso Matters of El Paso Community Foundation, which is huge, y'all. It's huge. Um, their grip on El Paso um, co- um, collaborated with Lilani Hart. Um, lies her deflection of her involvement in our son's murder case, premeditated code red murder case, and that came from her. The code red, not just only her, but she is one that claimed that Richard's murder was a code red. Um, and and then she'll go and try to deny it, but it's in writing. So, uh, like her confession, her notarized confession, she made sure it was notarized, and then of course we have her unhinged um, second confession. So, who's Lilani Hart? Lilani Hart is absolutely a perpetual criminal. God doesn't take kindly to that, to be a and that turns you into, um, where you lose your mind. You lose your mind when you're that criminal, and that you're manipulating and you're using the vile and vulgar sex cult activities to manipulate key officials, key generals, um, and uh, uh, do these LLCs, um, which absolutely we know that there was criminal trafficking for, and if there's criminal trafficking going on at Fort Bliss, that means that the generals had to allow it. That means that director of emergency services had to allow it. If the barracks were a total mess, which they were, with a 14-year-old girl living in the barracks being pimped out, with just totally covered in guns and flush. That was the word, flush with guns, ammunition, all kinds of stuff. Being drunk every day. This is, I don't know how many testimonies I got that they were drunk every day. It was just packed with like an Animal House atmosphere, and of course the rapes. And no one can deny that Asia Graham was raped in the barracks, and then she was found dead in the barracks, and that Glennon Oakley Jr. was found dead in the barracks. And no one can deny the absolute mess in the barracks, and that is, the senior NCOs, right? The senior NCOs. So they absolutely need to be stripped of their benefits, all of their benefits. The harm that they have done to our volunteer military. Okay, our military is a volunteer military. The word is out. I get the word all the time that hell no, I'm not joining the military. Hell no, I'm not going to serve in the military. Hell no. And it's not because they don't love their country. These are the finest that are telling me this. These are the smartest. These are the finest. And they're telling me, hell no, they are not going to serve in the military. And the word was out before Richard even joined, because, we tried to talk him out to serving in the military, because we absolutely knew that the problems were creeping in, that the criminal activities were creeping into the military, and that the leadership was up to no good. We absolutely told him that, and he had faith that he could serve honorably within the criminal activity. And so he reported the criminal activity because he said it was so bad. He told us it was so bad. It was far worse than he ever could imagine because of the child trafficking, the drug trafficking, the ammunition trafficking, the weapons trafficking, the Walmart mass shooting that, you know, deflected from the audits of all the criminality that was going on Fort Bliss. And, you know, and it's even worse than that because now we have absolute hard evidence that our generals, our Congress, our leadership has allowed the Juarez Cartel to compromise our institutions, putting our nation at risk, our volunteer soldiers, sons and daughters at risk, and of course they have suffered for it, to take over the, well, shouldn't say take over, I should say compromise. That Luis Rene Diaz, has compromised the DA's office with Bill Hicks, who is a usurper. And what, really, when you look at Governor Abbott, is he not paying attention to El Paso? Is he not paying attention to the DA office, the prosecutor's office, and what is going on there? He absolutely is aware of what is going on because we have absolutely flooded the system with the letters of notification of what's going on in the DA's office. And yet, how could he just sit there and allow the DA office in El Paso to be compromised by a foreign country's criminal cartel, right? A criminal cartel that is absolutely involved with the trafficking, with criminal trafficking and money laundering. Money laundering is a very big part of why they'll cross the border into this country and use the banks and money launder their illegal income. And so, and here I am, a mother whose son viciously, violently, brutally ordered to be murdered because he was reporting on the illegal activities, the safety problems on Fort Bliss, these absolute dereliction of duty of our leadership. And here I am telling the world that our military installation at Fort Bliss, which is huge because it covers White Sands Missile Range, and White Sands Missile Range, of course, is very important. I was born there, believe it or not. I was born on White Sands Missile Range in the little clinic. Very few people in the world have been born at White Sands Missile Range, and I happen to be one of them. I happen to be one of those little babies. Before the clinic opened up, I was born there, and then it shut down, and then the rest were born at William Beaumont Medical Center. So I absolutely understand the importance of the vastness of Fort Bliss and White Sands Missile Range. My dad was there. He understood the underground there. He understood the German military officers there, and which is gave us a lot of insight to the Walmart mass shooting, German connection with that. Um, we knew we used to shop at the German commissary um, on Fort Bliss or Biggs. I think it maybe was on Biggs. Um, so, we're very familiar. I went to school there and I used to jog all over Fort Bliss because I was on the Shark swim team with CJ, Colonel Johnson as my coach. So we have connections there. Used to go over to Juarez all the time. Understood that. Uh, that closeness between Juarez and Fort Bliss and El Paso. They are Siamese sister cities. They're only divided by, a border. You can just walk right over the bridge, right over. So we absolutely knew the area, and here we are exposing that through Luis Rene Diaz and Arturo Alba and to Sanchez, Gustavo Sanchez, who was supposed to be investigating our son's case. This is why we, found this all out. It's not a mistake. It's, what the hell is Sanchez doing? It's like, what is he doing? Oh, he's connected to the Juarez cartel. Okay, now we understand what he's doing. And that's DPS, right? That's DPS. So the DPS um, has been compromised. The DA has been compromised. Of course, the chief medical examiner, who makes, 430 plus $1,000 a year, has been compromised. He's illegal. He's illegal. So you got a usurper DA, an illegal chief medical examiner who is a justice, right? It's a judicial office because they determine the cause and manner of death in these capital murder cases and testify in court to that. And so that is a person holding that chief medical examiner should be like a lawyer and a doctor, right? Um, has to understand the law, has to understand medicine. So this is just a travesty that the cartel has compromised the chief medical examiner, the DA office, the Department of Public Safety, um, which is the Texas Rangers. And remember that day? I remember that day when we were standing right right on the corner. I'm trying to think of. I think it was on Mesa, right there in El Paso, doing our rally, and this very dark SUV, all dark SUV, black SUV, was just sitting there for the longest time. And then finally he came out and he goes, I'm a Texas Ranger. Um, I wanted to say, okay, but so you absolutely know that you're compromised by the Wars cartel, and you didn't tell us. Um, because maybe he didn't know. Maybe he didn't. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he didn't know. Um, because that wasn't Gustavo Sanchez. But they are connected to Willie Moya. Willie Moya, the more, we read about him. I don't claim to know everything, but he is big. He's big. He's Chapo. He's connected to, made deals with Chapo. Um, so this is really big. And of course, I can tell you right now, we have confirmed that they have even compromised El Paso Police Department. So El Paso Police Department, um, the DPS, the DEA, and of course the chief medical examiner. So, and of course, Fort Bliss, okay? They have also um, compromised Fort Bliss. And, if you're doing contract deals like Nadal Baim, right? Contract deals in business, and you're, up to no good with them, it's handy on Fort Bliss to have your guy like Tavita Nusa in the CID, like um, Marlon Soto, who is absolutely compromised. They're absolutely compromised. They need to be stripped. They need to be put in jail. Just in Richard's case, just for Richard's case. But if you're doing some kind of contract deal and it's you're up to no good, it's very shady and everything, you can act with impunity when you have your inside guys in the CID, right? Your inside guys in the DA's office, your inside guys in the DPS, your inside guys as the chief medical examiner. If if a murder happens, if a death happens, oh, we'll just say, okay, this was, maybe self-inflicted or something like that. Um, it's really handy to have that, but it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there, y'all. This is, all paid for. Think about it. All these big agencies and institutions are paid for by the American people. And, um, it- you know, when we um, knew that something was really fishy after we received the body cam footage from the unlawful traffic stop by the K9 cop at midnight in a parking lot. And the judge did not even question that, right? The judge didn't even question that. We're like, well, who is this judge? Who, who is this judge? How is this judge compromised, or does this judge have a very low IQ, or what's going on? Because, you would think that the judge would say, because even Alma Trejo, when she was a judge, said, "Oh, geez, we got to throw this one out, right? We've got to dismiss this one." Um, but this judge, I have it here. What is it? Yeah, Granberg. Judge John Granberg. It's like, well, who is this Granberg guy? Uh, so um and you look into the magistrate court and you understand the magistrate court and Team Fine Richard Halliday had these questions. Why didn't this judge say, who is this K9 cop making a traffic stop at midnight in a parking lot and is a family member to Belen Rocha, right? When Richard is on file of reporting Belen Rocha to Child Protective Services multiple times, multiple times. You would think, oh, wow, this might be some retaliation going on here. This might be some retaliation, and even Captain David Park didn't say, oh, well, you know, he, he, he investigated Richard, right, to retaliate against him. And he couldn't find anything. He couldn't find anything. It's in his letter to us. He didn't have Richard's back. He wanted to participate in the retaliation. But Richard was so squeaky, shiny, sparkling clean that they just couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it. And that's why we know whatever Bullen said, because, she couldn't tell anything to corroborate anything. She only could corroborate her own criminal activity. That's that's what uh, you know was very evident in the videos that we have of her and the audios that we have of her. And so the only audios that they could give us is Richard being absolutely magnificent, telling her, um, not taking advantage of her at all, warning her, saying these people, they don't care about you, they don't respect you. Don't do the vile, vulgar um, sex cult stuff because they say they support you, but they really don't. They don't respect you. They really don't. They're just horny. They just want to see you naked. Um, you know, uh, just amazing, amazing dialogue like that that shows the absolute care for humanity, for women, for children that Richard had. And it's a travesty. It is absolutely that they murdered him. It is such a loss for our military, for, of course, for our family. For our family, for the military, for our country. It is such a loss. And for Bob Moore of El Paso Matters and El Paso Community Foundation, who tries to give who this false narrative that they are so um, caring to the community when they are in fact just the opposite. Absolutely, all the perception that they are a community foundation when um, behind the scenes they are not. They are not. You know, it's a lie. It's all a lie. And Yvonne Rosales was looking into it. I'm not the one that knows about it. Yvonne Rosales knew about it. And others knew about it. And it came out with this whole Walmart, all this money, it's all about greed. Um and really just selling their soul to the devil, to these sex cults, being compromised by the sex cults, um by the illicit activities. And of course, you're talking about children's sex trafficking. You're talking about um, other illicit activities that cannot even be mentioned on this. And in the same family. And in the same family. And so, and it's this same family that calls her crazy, calls Leilani Hart crazy. And her family was also Tavita Nusa, the CID agent, who um, was giving Leilani Hart information, access to information, to manipulate the information, to tamper with the information. And Leilani Hart gave false information to Bob Moore, and Bob Moore willingly took the false information. He published the false information from a convicted criminal, a historical convicted criminal with a family that's engaged in the vile, vulgar, crazy sexual cult activity, illicit activity amongst themselves, and also harming children in her master bedroom by multiple members of her household, and her not timely reporting that, and not until it was, in her fighting that she got that notarized years later. So this is uh, this is what we have. Um, we are wanting our son's remains and accountability in a capital murder case in our family. Our family is dealing with the murder of our son, the code red murder of our son. That's what we're dealing with day in and day out. And we have to then stand up against the Juarez cartel, who has compromised our district attorney's office, who has compromised the medical examiner's office, who has compromised um, the DPS, who has compromised the El Paso Police Department, who has compromised the El Paso Independent School District's office, who has uh, now um, compromised. I would absolutely say the judges that are not judges. Okay, and that's confusing. Let me explain it. The El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court, the jail magistrate court. Some people call it the jail magistrate court. Um, this is where Patrick Crucius was taken, where he was arraigned, and it's all botched, y'all, because since 2015, they their power was extended. In 2015, their power was extended from partial uh, county jurisdiction to county jurisdiction. So their power, the judges on the criminal law magistrate court in El Paso in 2015, their power, their jurisdiction was extended to county-wide jurisdiction. Okay? When that happened, the law um, says that there's a change. There's a change. You cannot just have an extension, a widening of your power without having checks and balances. Our government is built on checks and balances. And when they received that extra jurisdiction, that extra power, then they needed to be elected. The people needed to elect who received this county-wide powerful jurisdiction over them. Makes sense, right? But you know what? Their voting, their election was denied. The leadership that absolutely the judges they're all about the law. They know. They're all about the Texas Constitution. Um, what about all the cases with all of these lawyers? It really is, really a sad story when you have, you know, almost a decade. We have 2024 now. And so for 9 years, not over 9 years, they have been acting illegally on all of these criminal cases. And nobody's picked that up. And because of um, this canine cop in a parking lot at midnight making a traffic stop and is related to Belen Rocha, um, Team Find Richard Halliday discovers that there's something really wrong with the judge, that the judge is compromised. And you see that with the judge that arraigned Patrick Crucius, that something is really wrong with this judge too, that this judge is compromised because Patrick Crucius's Miranda rights was not read to him. His hands were not bagged. He's been sitting in isolation for over 5 years. When he has been federally found guilty for this, and they keep him, for a money grab. Really, it's all money grab. But also, um, that his case has been botched, which means that the federal case, um, it's going to be a mess. And I don't care if it's a mess. It needs to be a mess. It needs to all be exposed. Just because they have to do some hard work now to set everything right doesn't mean they don't need to do it. They have to do it. They have to clean up this mess that they made in the DA's office, in the magistrate court, in the um, medical examiner's office, in the DPS, in the El Paso Police Department. Absolutely. And we cannot allow the cartel, the Mexican cartel, a foreign country, to compromise our system here in the United States, especially in El Paso, especially on Fort Bliss. And I understand that, this criminal trafficking is big business, but it's illegal. It's our guns, our ammunition. What gives them the right to think that they could just steal it and then take it over the border and sell it? What about all the children, 500,000 children coming into this country, being processed, being written their numbers on their t-shirt on their bodies, right? I got a message today about that. And then all of a sudden they disappear. And now they're mostly dead. Yeah. And what about the drugs? So, and we have, the connections between the individuals in the Walmart mass shooting and the individuals in Richard's case, because they're the same case, and connections to this cartel group, and understanding why they have positions in our institutions there, in our agencies there. So, it's all, it's a big deal. It's a big case. And why this is not being covered, please share this. Please share this with any kind of media that you know, because it is really a crime against our military, against our country, even against Mexico. Because Mexico is even more harmed by all of this. Because where do they do the money laundering? They do it in the United States. So it's, they're just so harmed by all of this. And so if you love people, if you love children, if you love our young volunteer sons and daughters, and you don't even have to love them, you just have to know what's right. And, this is what kind of disgusts me about Yvonne Rosales. She's really showing a very bad hand. And I hope that I'm wrong. Because with Bill Hicks being a usurper, no matter what she feels, and see, this is what people don't understand. Duty comes before what you feel and what you know. The law says there is no gap. The law says that Bill Hicks is not the DA, okay? Because he screwed up. He did not sign the anti-bribery statement. He did not do it right. And he has to sign that before he takes the oath of office. And he didn't. So he is not the DA. The law says so. Everything is void. Check it out. Go do your own research. All his actions are void. That's why he really couldn't move on anything, including the Walmart mass shooting case. So his actions are void because he is not. The law says, not me, but the law says that he is not the DA. And therefore, there cannot be a gap. There cannot be any gap. There cannot be a time period where there is no district attorney. And so Yvonne Rosales is being derelict in her duty. Whether she likes it or not, whether she resigned or not, it doesn't matter. She has to be brought back, um, whether she wants to or not, kicking and screaming, um, which is a travesty that she does not understand that she's the holdover district attorney, whether she likes it or not. And it really shows where we're at. That, you want to take the oath of office, you want to take the money, you want to take the hundreds of thousands of dollars, you want to take the millions of dollars, but you don't want to do your duty when your duty calls. And her duty is to get back in that office and start prosecuting. That's her duty. 100%. And she's hurting Richard's case. She's hurting Patrick Crucius's case. I mean, just shut it down and let him go and serve his federal term, which is 1,000 years. He'll, at the Alcatraz of the Rockies. It's the most ridiculous situation that we have. Bill Hicks wants to have the death penalty for Patrick Crucius while he is compromised by the foreign country cartel and intercepting and saying, oh no, this is in our emails, the open records, the FOIAs that we have. You don't have to do any background check on Luis Rene Diaz. You don't have to do any background check on him. I will speak up for him. That's Bill Hicks. That's so criminal. And that means he purposely allowed the cartel to compromise the district attorney's office. So, it's this is really breaking news every day, and we're hard at work behind the scenes, documenting all of this and sending it off for our country, of course, for our son, for our military, for the people in El Paso, for the people in Juarez. And it really, if it's happening in El Paso, is it happening in other places? And it is. And I put up the Ohio information, the article, on Facebook to let you know that we have to be very vigilant and looking at who is running our agencies and if they're compromised or not. It's very important. And we absolutely need to have accountability for it and get our country working properly again with proper oversight. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.